The Lost Path and the Kind Spirit. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between towering mountains and dense forests, there lived a humble tailor named Farley. Farley worked from dawn until dusk, stitching garments for the villagers, but no matter how hard he worked, it never seemed enough to provide for his two children, Anya and Ethan. Anya was a clever, resourceful girl of 13, while Ethan, only 8, was curious but often timid. The family lived in a modest cottage with a garden that used to bloom with vegetables, but a long drought had withered the plants, and the village was suffering. Farley, though a skilled tailor, could no longer sell enough clothing to feed his family. Each day, the meals grew smaller, and his heart grew heavier. One evening, as the last of their bread was shared between them, Farley sat by the fire, staring into the flickering flames. His thoughts were filled with worry. "What will become of us?" he whispered under his breath, not realizing that Anya was listening from the corner of the room. "We have nothing left," he continued softly, "and I fear my children will starve. How can I provide for them when the village itself is crumbling?" His voice cracked, and he held his head in his hands. Anya, always alert and quick-witted, gently nudged Ethan, who was curled up on the other side of the room. She motioned for him to follow her quietly to their small shared bed. "Do not fear," she whispered as they lay down. "Tomorrow, we will find a way to help Father." Ethan looked up at her, wide-eyed. "But how? There's no food left, and the forest is too dangerous." Anya smiled, though her heart was also heavy with worry. "Trust me, Ethan. We will find what we need." The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Anya and Ethan woke up early, determined to gather food from the forest. They had done so before, but this time, Anya was planning to venture deeper than ever. Armed with only a small basket and a knife for cutting herbs, the siblings set off, leaving a note for their father, who was still fast asleep. The forest was vast and dense, its towering trees blocking out much of the morning light. As they walked further in, the air became cool, and the sounds of birds and rustling leaves surrounded them. They filled their baskets with berries, mushrooms, and herbs, but Anya was not satisfied. "We need more than this to last us through the week," she said, glancing at the meager contents of their basket. "Shouldn't we head back?" Ethan asked nervously, glancing around as if expecting the forest to swallow them whole. "Not yet," Anya replied, determined. "If we go a little deeper, we might find more berries or perhaps some wild vegetables." With that, they continued further into the unknown parts of the forest, where even the villagers rarely dared to venture. The trees grew thicker, and the paths narrower, until eventually, they realized they had strayed far beyond familiar territory. "Anya, I think we're lost," Ethan said, his voice trembling. Anya looked around, trying to stay calm. The trees were dense, and the path they had taken seemed to have disappeared. She bit her lip, unwilling to show her fear. "We'll be fine. We just need to retrace our steps." But no matter how they tried, the forest seemed to shift and twist around them, making every direction look the same. By midday, the sky had darkened, and the first drops of rain began to fall. They found a small clearing and sat beneath a large oak tree, seeking shelter from the rain. The forest was quiet, save for the gentle patter of rain on leaves. Ethan, shivering from both the cold and fear, looked to his sister. What will we do? How will we find our way home? Anya, though equally frightened, put on a brave face. We'll rest here for a while, and when the rain stops, we'll find our way back. I promise. Hours passed, and as the sun began to set, the rain finally stopped, but the forest had grown dark and unfamiliar. Anya and Ethan huddled together beneath the oak tree, their hopes fading. I'm sorry, Anya whispered. I didn't mean for us to get lost. Ethan, despite his fear, squeezed her hand. It's okay, Anya. You were only trying to help. As the darkness deepened, a soft, glowing light appeared at the edge of the clearing. Startled, the children looked up and saw a figure slowly approaching. It was not a person but a radiant, glowing fox. Its fur shimmered like silver in the moonlight, and its eyes were kind and wise. Do not be afraid, the fox said in a gentle voice. I am Seraph, the guardian spirit of this forest. Anya and Ethan stared in awe. They had heard stories of the forest spirits, but never had they expected to meet one. Why do you wander so deep into my woods, little ones? Seraph asked, tilting its head curiously. We got lost, Anya admitted. We came to gather food, but we strayed too far. Seraph nodded, its glowing eyes softening. You are brave to venture so far, but the forest can be a dangerous place for those who do not know its paths. Can you help us find our way home? Ethan asked, his voice small. Seraph smiled. I will do more than that. Follow me, and I will show you a path not only home but also to wisdom. Intrigued and with little choice, Anya and Ethan followed Seraph as it led them through the dark forest. As they walked, Seraph began to speak, sharing stories of the ancient woods. It told them about the trees that had stood for centuries, about the animals that lived in harmony with the land, and about the balance that every creature, big or small, brought to the world. Anya listened intently, absorbing every word. Why do you help us? She asked. Seraph paused for a moment, then replied, because kindness and wisdom are gifts that must be shared. You are young, but you have already shown bravery and compassion. These qualities will guide you far in life. As they walked, Seraph continued to teach the children. It spoke of patience, reminding them that not all things can be solved quickly, but with time and perseverance, even the darkest woods can be navigated. It spoke of trust, emphasizing that working together and supporting one another would always lead them home. By the time the moon was high in the sky, Seraph had led them to the edge of the forest. Just beyond the trees, the familiar lights of their village flickered in the distance. Thank you, Seraph, Anya said, bowing her head gratefully. Seraph smiled once more. Remember the lessons of the forest, and you will never truly be lost. With that, the glowing fox faded into the trees, its light disappearing into the night. Anya and Ethan hurried home, where they found their father waiting anxiously by the fire. When he saw them, he rushed to embrace them, tears of relief in his eyes. I thought I had lost you both, he said, holding them tightly. We're safe, father, Anya said, smiling. And we learned something important today. From that day forward, Anya and Ethan never forgot the lessons Seraph had taught them. They became known in the village not only for their bravery, but also for their wisdom and kindness. And though they never saw the glowing fox again, they knew that somewhere, deep within the forest, Seraph was still watching over them. As for Farley, he was proud of his children, and together, they worked to rebuild their lives, always remembering that no matter how lost they might feel, there was always a way forward if they trusted in themselves and each other.
Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, and share our channel Magic Mingle with your friends to enjoy more magical stories.